Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show podcast. Today we have a very special episode because SlamBall is back. And Mason Gordon, who's on here right now, is the man who brought it back. So Mason, thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks, Buster. I'm so happy to be able to get the news out about bringing SlamBall back. We're back by popular demand, and we can't wait to get this thing on TV, on ESPN, in less than a month's time. So it's a dream come true.
So I guess a starting point would be, out of all the things you could have put your time towards, why SlamBall, and what made you think you had to be the person to bring it back?
I had this dream. That was recurring for a couple years about two athletes that kind of like flew into frame and then they collided and then they fell out of frame. And that was the whole dream. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, what the hell is this? Why can't I get it out of my head? And so I went into a little warehouse in East Los Angeles and I built a SlamBall court out of spare parts. And I tried to get that thing that was in my head out of my head and into the real world. And that led to a national television deal. That led to really incredible partnerships with some of the biggest media companies in the world. And 20 years later, we're live, we're bettable, we're engageable on ESPN, which I'm still pinching myself about. It's really spectacular. SlamBall is back, baby, and we're on the worldwide leader.
I love it. So what's going to be different this time around?
There's so much that's different. You know, SlamBall being live for the first time, that was always the vision for SlamBall, for it to be something that was live and immediate. And what we did before, which millions and millions of people just absolutely loved, it was a TV show. We would get everybody together and we would film all the games and then we release them 3 months later, you know, adding all the graphics and getting the broadcasters laid in and all that kind of stuff. It was a television show like Ninja Warrior, and that's no way to build a sport. If you want a sport, you need it to be immediate, and audiences always accepted SlamBall as a real and authentic sport, which it was, but it wasn't a league. They accepted it as a league, but it wasn't a league. But now we're able to really put it in the right format that everybody always accepted it as. So that's really the difference, is like we're giving the people what they want. The hashtag Bring Back SlamBall movement came about not because of anything we did, it's because Jason Tatum would post about it and post old highlights, Overtime Elite, Barstool Sports. These were all the people that just recognized how cool SlamBall was and that the world's a better place with SlamBall in it. So just the fact that 20-year-old highlights would go viral each and every week on all these massive platforms, on social media, who's got no interest in something that's even, you know, a week old, much less 20 years old. I think it really said a lot. And then the hashtag Bring Back SlamBall movement, gathered over 500 million views on that content over a couple year span. So that was really clear that now was the time to bring back SlamBall in earnest.
That's amazing. So I guess another question off of that is, why did it fail in the first place if people loved it so much?
Well, SlamBall didn't fail. It was a television show. And when you're a television show, they measure you against like the 5,003 run of Law and Order. And if you can't deliver the same ratings, you're not going to continue. So we were this show that was bouncing around and different people saw value in it, but it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't a live, engageable, bettable sport. And now we are. So and we're on the absolute right platform with the absolute right partner. That narrative just by itself is rocket fuel. SlamBall's back and it's on ESPN. That is a conversation
of it. Yeah, it's nuts.
And that's really interesting. The way that the betting community has really rallied around SlamBall as a really interesting IP, because basketball and football wagerers, they want action every single day. And there's this giant desert in the middle of the calendar where they don't get it. And
Right.
so, slam ball is really where basketball and football cultures collide. It's played by basketball and football background athletes on the same court in between basketball and football seasons. So you really don't have to squint that much to see the market opportunity for scale here.
So I guess you touched on a little bit there, but who are the athletes going to be? Who are like, who's your dream star, that would participate in this league?
Well, what's fascinating is that our athletes come from major basketball and football NCAA programs. They're typically standout college players at the college level, and many of them played professionally overseas and in smaller professional leagues. And what's interesting about it is that slam ball attracts the hyperkinetic athlete. It attracts that athlete that's so over the top because in slam ball and in the air, athleticism rules, right? So you have a favorite college team and there's that guy on your college team that's like the second guy off the bench that you're like, why isn't he playing more? That guy is the best athlete in a 100-mile radius, and he just for some reason isn't an apex basketball player. He's a slam ball player. Same thing on the football gridiron, right? So
Right.
we attract the most raw, incredible, explosive athletes into our game, and their God-given athletic ability has undeniable entertainment and competitive applications.
What would be if, like, in the NBA, a free throw line dunk or a full court shot is like the ultimate highlight reel? What is the ultimate highlight in slam ball? Is it like a full court dunk? I mean, I don't even know what's like physically possible. You would know better.
No, actually, you said the right thing, Buster. We have no idea what's humanly possible in slam ball because it's this giant vertical creative canvas that these players are painting on every day and creating new things. We've got guys doing 900-degree turn dunks. We've got guys doing 1080 dunks. We've got 720 posters that have already happened in training camp. Flip dunks, all kinds of insane stuff. There's a dunk called the McNasty, which is 3 dunks in one, which is a 360 through the legs on the lean. And these kind of things are happening live in the game against the live defense. It's not a thing where you're an influencer that's like filming 100
Yeah.
different attempts and only putting the one up that you make, right? This is live and immediate, and these guys are really making incredible things happen. And I think people are really going to be surprised how technically proficient these athletes are. They're all great shooters, great passers, great dribblers. They can do a lot of things out there on the floor. And I think you'll see a lot more balance of play than what you've seen in the past with slam ball.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, in like gymnastics, there's a benefit to being shorter. Would that also be true in slam ball, or is the average height going to be similar to those pro sports?
Our average height in camp is 6'5". We've got
Okay.
guys that are 5'7". We've got guys that are 5'7". We've got guys that are 6'9". That's a big spread, right? But you hit the nail on the head, Buster. The vision for slam ball has always been to take the gymnastic ability of a 5'5" gymnast and put him in a 6'6" small forward from Kansas, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. It's like the whole Russell Crowe gladiator thing, right? Like, are you not entertained? You've got a power forward from the University of Oklahoma lining up against a linebacker from Nebraska. I mean, that's a really good base for a sport. I think it's going to create a lot of curiosity. I think we're going to get a ton of tune in. And when people find out that there's this really great strategic levels of slam ball, that's really the key. UFC, a lot of people don't realize this, but when UFC was going through its growth phase, people used to boo when the fight went to the ground, because they didn't understand anything other than punching and kicking. But once you got that information across that there was actual strategy going on the ground, UFC took off like a rocket and took over the entire culture. So we think that there's similar aspects to slam ball that people are going to be able to love.
That's interesting. And it's still going to be a team format though, like basketball or football, right? There's not going to be guys
Absolutely, yeah.
sticking around. So what is that team structure going to look like?
Yeah, the league is comprised of 8 teams. The game is played 4-by-4, hockey-style substitutions on the fly. There's a dedicated defensive player called a stopper that's kind of like a goalie in hockey, whose job is to defend the rim, but he can elect to go empty net and come up the floor and put more pressure on the offensive side of the ball. Or the offensive side of the court. So the whole court, you can see over my shoulder, the whole court is surrounded by hockey glass. It contains all the action. It's physical. You can hit people, and we've found that basketball and football players are the apex athletes for this so far. We've had a lot of different background players show up, but the basketball and football guys really have taken the lead. And our training camp now is about half basketball players, half football players. And that's the eternal argument, right? Is who are the better athletes, basketball or football guys? And they're arguing in camp and trying to solve that argument right here in SlamBall, playing on the same floor.
That's pretty fun. What are the guys going to be wearing in terms of like protection and all of that? Because this is no ordinary sport, obviously.
Absolutely. We take our player safety protocols incredibly seriously. Guys wear elbow pads, knee pads. They have a specific custom helmet that we've built that's a soft helmet that protects you from any kind of incidental contact around the rim or the backboard or anything like that. So the protective gear has been developed over 2 decades, so we feel really, really good about everything that we've done on that side to ensure player safety. And it's a sport. Injuries are going to happen, but we do everything that we can to protect our players and make sure that they have the best opportunity to perform at the highest level.
Now, for the betting odds, how are those odds figured out when these guys have never publicly played this sport before? How does one go about figuring that out?
Well, we have a ton of historical data around how SlamBall is played, including historical box scores going back to 2002. So that gives you some kind of data basis for the way that this stuff works. And then the idea is that odds makers would be able to watch a week's worth of games and then be able to hang odds based on the observations from that week. So people can work off of really limited data sets now in a way that they couldn't in the past. So we're very excited about that. We have some announcements coming on that side of things, but we've been really blown away by how excited people are in the wagering community. I think in part because if you and I were to create a sport like full contact badminton or something like that, it would take a long time to convince people and get people to understand the sport. But in SlamBall, you know what you're watching right away, and as you get more information, you get deeper and deeper into it, and then you think you have a betting edge, and that gets kind of exciting. So when you're able to see how people roll into the wagering platforms, based on marketing dollars, you can really project a market powerfully in SlamBall that you maybe couldn't with full contact badminton.
I love it. So thinking, 5, 10 years out, what would your dream for this league be, in its live version?
I mean, listen, I think we're the UFC of team sports, full stop. I really think if UFC could take all the different pugilistic styles that nobody was particularly that interested in, like Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu and boxing and freestyle wrestling, and blend it together into something that young audiences loved, I think we're doing the same thing with team sports, taking the best elements of basketball, football, hockey, video games, mixing it all together into something that people dig. It's fast, it's fun, it's focused on younger demos, and the reality is that people really love this thing. It's been living in people's social media feeds for a long time now. It's been going viral for a long time now, and now we get to do storytelling, Buster, which my co-founder Mike Tolan and I are really have a great reputation at being able to do that at the highest level. So Mike Tolan's been with me since the very beginning in that warehouse, helped us get our first television deal, and now here we are 20 years later on ESPN. I mean, what a story. Like, what an incredible thing. And the fact that we're still so close and we still love each other after all this time, it's really incredible, man.
I agree. That's amazing. Well, it's a testament to the both of you guys.
Thanks.
But yeah, man, I can't wait to watch this thing. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be fun.
I don't have a team yet. How do people at home, decide who to root for?
We're actually announcing the teams tomorrow. We've got a release going out tomorrow announcing the team names and logos, and then we're going to be announcing the kits right after that. So I think people will be really excited. There's 3 legacy teams that are kind of carrying over from the previous iterations of SlamBall, teams that won world championships and have rivalries and things like that. And we have 5 brand new teams. And I got to tell you, some of these athletes have already started blowing minds over here. We've got a handful of guys that have already kind of separated from the pack, and these guys are the best athletes we've ever had in the SlamBall program. So if you liked those, highlights that you've seen in the past, wait till you get a load of these guys.
Well, I think that's a perfect cliffhanger for this. So everybody, check out SlamBall on ESPN. And Mason, thanks so much for popping on here.
Thanks, Buster. Really appreciate it. Come see us live. Vegas, July 21st. ESPN. Tune in, everybody.
All right. See you guys later. Peace.